Well, I may live to regret this, but I am selling my beloved Ultrabeige, which has been with me for a few years and 3 different Cannonball events. I bought it about 5 years ago from my friend's great aunt's estate, and they actually purchased the car new, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then the C2C Express, which is a vintage kind of Cannonball tribute race, came up, and they said, well, it has to be pre-1980 and within this certain budget. I said, okay, great, well, this qualifies. But there was no budget for modifications, so I said, great, I'll cheat the car up really well and go win the race. And in 2017, we didn't finish because of the transmission, and in 2018 we totally redid the car, redid a lot of the electronics, put a better fuel cell in, fully built transmission, different torque converter, which was the thing causing the problem, and we did win, and we did it in a time of 33 hours and 33 minutes from New York to Los Angeles. Now, with all of the sub 30-hour times now, that may not seem that fast, but keep in mind those are in modern cars that are made to go fast comfortably for a long period of time. This is a old boat that weighs about 4,500 pounds. It only had 148 horsepower stock, and it was never meant to do something like going across the country at a high rate of speed. But we've built it into a awesome highway cruiser. It's very comfortable at 125 miles an hour, and pretty reliable too. Although we were still sorting out fuel system issues. But anyway, I'm just going to walk you through the car and kind of tell what we've done to the car. Forgive me, I did not do the work. I was the idea behind it and kind of oversaw it, but I don't know all the specifics, so some of you mechanical nerds may call me out on saying the wrong numbers or something like that on some of the stuff. So anyway, let's start with the front. We put the stock bumper back on. Some of the photos you see have this crazy black bumper that was built for the rally lights. We took the rally lights off, put it a little bit back to stock format, but these are retrofitted xenons, and they're actually 4-beam high beam headlights, so you almost don't even need the rally lights. The high beams are incredibly bright and project a long ways, much better than LEDs. That's why I went with xenons, and they are awesome. They absolutely light up the highway. Under the hood, we have an LS1 that I bought out of a Trans Am WS6, and it is of course not stock. We put a cam in it, redid the top end, and it's putting down about 400 horsepower to the wheels. That's backed by a B&M off-the-shelf 4L65 transmission that we bought from Summit Racing, and that's brand new as of I think 2018. Let's see what else. The motor has been absolutely bulletproof. It gets probably about 20 miles to the gallon when you're just cruising at normal speeds, probably about 10 to 11 at Cannonball speeds. It's geared really nicely so that you can cruise, I think 110, you're at like 2200 RPM, 2400 RPM. It's awesome. And fully upgraded cooling system, upgraded alternator, water pump, all of those things for reliability. And we retrofitted all of this bracketry so that we could still have air conditioning. Now, we've struggled with the AC system a little bit because we're using the original AC compressor, and it doesn't quite work with all the other things. We've gotten it to work. It worked on our way out to Connecticut, and then the clutch went on the way back, so it needs some tweaking. The AC does work, but it doesn't work for a long period of time, so there's something in there that still needs some work to have that actually cool reliably for a long period of time. So of course we've done all 3 of our cross-country runs with no AC, which has proved to be really really a test of the will and of course our noses, because 30 plus hours in the car with no AC and 3 smelly dudes gets a little rank. So we've gotten to know each other really well over the years. So that is the power plant. Of course, you know, there's no good pro touring car that isn't LS swapped in, so we LS swapped it. We have a Willwood brake master cylinder with adjustable brake bias, and of course that is tied to Willwood 4-piston front brakes, and we put Camaro rear brakes on it, so it's got a fantastic braking system to handle the weight and the extra power. We did Summit Racing headers to make the engine fit in there, and we've got QA1 full front spindle coilovers and a QA1 rear coilover conversion. Probably the coolest thing about this car, in addition to just the engine, the sound, and the overall look, is that it handles incredibly well. You would never think that, but you get up to 130 miles an hour and it is planted, it is stable, it is really fun to drive, and it feels like a modern car at those speeds. So the setup ended up working really well with this car. It's not a handful like some of these pro touring cars are. It's very, very drivable. I mean, I've got 8,000 miles at triple-digit speeds on this car over the years, and it's just been awesome. So let's check out the cockpit. So in here you can see a lot of NATO mounts for all of the iPhones and iPads that we run countermeasures with. It is pre-wired here for radar detectors, so you can run 2 separate radar detectors. Mounts for GoPro. Got a single fuel gauge here because we don't need 2 fuel gauges because we only have 1 fuel cell. We got rid of the stock fuel tank. We have a digital tach here. No odometer, because why do you need to know how many miles you've done? That's what your Garmin's for. Oil temp gauge, oil pressure, trans temp, voltage gauge, water temp. Here we have stock switches for the lights. We have switches for the rally and fog lights, which have been removed. We have a switch here to kill all of the rear lights, and a switch here just to kill the brake lights, typical Cannonball fare. Down here we have a mount for the CB radio and the scanner. All of these are still wired. The antennas are in place, and they're essentially ready to plug and play. This is amplifier and speaker for the scanner, and that one is in place for the other scanner, which we mounted here. This is a mount for a Home Patrol digital scanner. We have external power here. We have a switch for the rear diff cooler, and another switch that I think doesn't do anything anymore. I think one of these switches kills all of the power. That's right, one of these switches kills all the power for the accessories. So if you get pulled over and you need to just shut all the screens down and all the radios, you flip that switch, and then the cops may be none the wiser. Although we did get pulled over one time, and the cop saw the screens and he goes, "What's going on here? Is this some kind of Knight Rider thing?" I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "All right, have a good night." So yeah, and then in the back here, I actually had the seat custom cut in half here so we could mount a spare tire without having it propped up, because you only need 3 people in a Cannonball. I got Corvette C5 Mirrors because the factory mirrors were way too small to have good rear visibility. I also added a panoramic mirror here. So, you know, in Cannonball, everything is about safety. So we wanted as good visibility as we could all around the car. So this was probably my most proud addition to the car, is I wanted quick and easy fueling. So we drilled through the trunk and created these flaps here, and all you do is take the pump and stick it right in here. There's a nice little quick fill flap. You don't have to unscrew anything, and obviously in Cannonball you're filling from two pumps at the same time. So we can fill the entire 60-gallon fuel cell in about 4.5 minutes, and that's about how long our stops were on those runs. All LED rear lights for improved visibility. And then in here we have the Pyrotech custom built 60-gallon aluminum fuel cell, essentially ordered specifically for this purpose. Fuel filter, fuel pump, all that right in line. So if you need to change them on the fly, which we have had to, you can do that pretty easily. Some extra storage for tools and everything else you need. So that is the car in a nutshell. one of the other cool things about this car is all the documentation. So when I got this car, it actually came with a scrapbook, and I have got the original window sticker for the car here that they put in the scrapbook, and pictures of them when they built their new garage to put this in. I thought that was kind of cool. I've got some early service records and a parts book and all that. And then I have the more painful stack, which is the $45,000 or so that I put into this car to build it. Yeah, so these are all of the receipts for all of the parts and labor. A lot of trips to O'Reilly for miscellaneous stuff, and a lot of trips to Summit Racing. And yeah, so somebody can have that, because I don't want to know anymore how much I put into this car. But for the purpose of the flipping contest, we assign a very reasonable cost basis to the car. Anything over that cost basis goes to the charity that I've chosen, and hopefully the cost basis is low enough so that I'll win the competition. Either way, it's painful for me, because I put 50 grand into the car. I'll never get that back. But hopefully one of you will want to have a unique piece of Cannonball history that's maybe a little more exciting than one of the modern German super sedans. It certainly gets more attention when you take it to car shows, and people absolutely break their necks when I drive this thing down the road. Maybe it's the color matched gold Hurst wheels, maybe the fact that it just kind of looks like a flying dildo, but either way, it gets attention, and it is actually pretty fun to drive. So bid early, bid often, just like you should at the polls.